So I think, your experience in this race is a little unique compared to the rest of the candidates. You served on the city council. You've
Yes.
also been running up until fairly recently when you decided to run for mayor, pretty large nonprofit organization.
Mm.
Tell us about how those experiences and other experiences and other roles that you've had have prepared you to take on the big job of being the mayor of Detroit.
Sure. I believe my experience is unique as well. I'll start with the fact that I've been a CEO for over a decade, and the mayor is the CEO of the city of Detroit. So that experience is paramount. As a legislator or a council member, you're passing ordinances, you're writing them and passing them. You are amending the budget and passing the budget, but you're not responsible for implementing those things, right? A CEO has to manage whatever budget is put in place. They have to manage the policies and the rules of governance that are in place. So understanding that the buck stops with you as a CEO and how the intended and unintended consequences of policies and budgets impact your bottom line and the people you're serving. And a CEO has to make tough decisions often. So I feel having the legislative experience on city council and being a CEO, as well as experience in nonprofit, for profit, government, and education all make me uniquely prepared for this position.
For folks that don't know what the Heating and Warmth Fund is,
Mm.
give us kind of an overview of like the responsibilities of that organization and things that you did, to really serve kind of the base needs of a lot of Detroiters because
Mhm.
that organization, not to get ahead of your answer, but basically I see it as kind of a social service organization that tries to make sure people can afford their utility bills, right?
Yeah, you summed it up well. The Heat and Warmth Fund has been around since 1985. And since 1985, they've been providing assistance with heat and electricity for struggling families across the state. It's a statewide organization. When I came in 2014, one of the biggest issues we were having across the city was increasing affordability um, issues with water.
Hmm.
And I started THAW's first water program in 30 years in 2015. So now it's heat, electricity, and water. We also provide assistance with home repairs, and we have programs for people with chronic health conditions and mothers with high risk pregnancies because all of those things are impacted by whether or not you can stay warm at night, whether or not you can refrigerate your medicine, or whether or not you have clean, safe water in your house.
At THAW, you also helped create a $5 million grant program, state funded, that helped residents of the state pay off their water bill debt.
Yeah.
You talked about adding that to the heating and warmth piece of it.
Yes.
What's the impact of that been? I mean, we hear a lot about water affordability
Mhm.
issues and the shutoff crisis during COVID, and there was
Yes.
a moratorium on that for a period of time that's been
Mhm.
lifted now. Um, what has been your experience with water affordability in the city, and how did that program help?
Oh, the impact of that program has been huge. I started advocating in the legislature for assistance with water, I guess, soon as I got to THAW. And when I got there, many legislators were still saying, no, water is the most affordable utility, which was true, but that was quickly changing. And affordable to some is still not affordable to others. So the importance of having the water affordability, I kept pushing, and fortunately, I was able to get a $5 million allocation from the legislature before Democrats had a trifecta. I think that's important
Yeah, this
because
was
I
under
had to
Republican control.
correct. I had to work across the aisle to get this done, which our next mayor will have to do as well. But the impact of families having clean, safe water is immeasurable, especially after COVID, right? During and after COVID, it's been so important. The other thing that that program does is provide minor plumbing repairs. So we'll replace toilets and repair leaks that drive up a bill as well. So that makes your bill more affordable long term because it's more efficient. Your home is more efficient.
Do you, there was a lot of pressure on the water department at the city as we were kind of coming out of the pandemic.
Mhm.
Pressure to continue a moratorium on water
Mhm.
shutoffs, and ultimately the city decided that they were going to implement some programs to make it easier for people to tackle the debt that they had in the
Yes.
water system. But water shutoffs have come back. What
Yes.
what would be your approach on that issue? Would you do things differently? Would you reinstate some kind of moratorium, or what's your philosophy on
Yeah.
shutoffs in general?
I think the city has to make the programs that are in place easier for people to access. They're not very easy for people to access right now, but I don't think a moratorium is the answer. During COVID, one of the things that happened was the moratorium on shutoffs. It was good and it was needed during COVID, but when COVID ended, those bills were still there. But people were in a tougher position because a bill that might have been $200 was now $2,000. And that was water, that was heat, that was electricity. So we're not helping people by delaying the problem and letting it multiply. You help people by finding solutions to make their bills more affordable long term.
And what is that? Help me understand the problem here of people racking up this insane debt. I
Oh,
would imagine part of it's an income problem, right?
absolutely.
Part of it might be on the city. We need to find ways to bring down the cost of these things. But how are people coming into so much debt in the first place?
There are basically 2 ways to reduce people's utility bills or the burden of their utility bills. The first is to increase their income. The second is to decrease their costs. You decrease their costs by making their home more energy efficient, right? You reduce the water usage. Part of it is education, right? At THAW, we educate people on how to conserve water, how to conserve energy, but there isn't enough conservation we can teach if all the heat is going through a hole in your roof. So we have to find ways to help people make their homes more energy efficient by fixing the roof, by offering ways for people to get new windows. And those are the kind of solutions that I created while at Thaw because I knew as long as we didn't address the root cause of the problem, every year people would have to come back, especially seniors, because their incomes aren't going up and their homes aren't getting newer. So what can we do to address the problem?